Just extend Cam Jordan already. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Saints, your daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much, as always, to all the everydayers out there making Locked On Saints your first listen of the day every day. Don't forget you can subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss a daily episode. And if you want to continue on the conversation one-on-one with me, gain access to our exclusive film studies, Q&As, inside information, and much more, you can join the family today over at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSaints. As always, I'm your host, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola on Twitter, your New Orleans Saints expert, credentialed member of the media, senior writer and reporter over at Saints News Network, Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation site covering the New Orleans Saints. You'd also find me every Tuesday on the Locked On NFL podcast and here with you every single Monday through Friday and then some on Locked On Saints. On today's episode of Locked On Saints, it's a Transaction Tuesday, so it's all transactions all the time. On today's episode, we're going to wrap up, take a look at what kind of things the Saints could potentially get active in when it comes to the trade market. There's one specific offseason space where I see the Saints actually participating in a trade. We're going to look at some potential free agent additions that could still show up here in New Orleans. But first, New Orleans Saints, Mickey, Kai, y'all, just extend Cam Jordan already. Let's just get this done. Cam Jordan's out here tweeting, saying that he just told his wife that in 36 months, the house in Arizona better be ready. Cam Jordan knows what he wants to be doing during the course of those 36 months. He wants to be playing football for the New Orleans Saints. Now, he has the opportunity to do that this year, but what lives beyond this year is still a little bit of a question mark, except for the fact that everybody and their mama wants Cam Jordan to be a New Orleans Saint. So give everybody and their mama what it is. The mama's got it hard enough. The mamas got it hard enough. Just give them what they want and extend Cam Jordan. All the mamas out there, they want Cam Jordan to be a New Orleans Saint for the rest of his career. Just get it done. I'll quit being foolish. But I do think that getting an extension done with Cam Jordan is something that will likely happen before the season begins. Or it could be one of those weird extensions that the Saints get done like week 1 or week 2, kind of like DeMario Davis and Marshawn Lattimore in years past. But I think it's a no-brainer that this is absolutely a thing that the Saints can get done before the season begins. And that's the theme of today's episode. What are the transactions that the Saints can get done before the season starts? And Cam Jordan's extension is right up at the top of the list. I have another extension for you that I'll bring up here in a second that's a little bit more outside the box. But I just think at this point, Cam has said he wants to spend his career with the New Orleans Saints. Mickey Loomis has said that they want him to be a New Orleans Saint as long as he wants to be a New Orleans Saint. Cam has said that he wants to be a New Orleans Saint as long as the New Orleans Saints want him to be a New Orleans Saint. So it sounds like both Cam and the New Orleans Saints want Cam to be a New Orleans Saint. So just make sure that Cam finishes as a New Orleans Saint. Like this isn't that hard. And so that's why I don't think that the New Orleans Saints aren't going to get it done. Why haven't they done it yet already, Ross? Well, because like no one's in the building. Like you're starting to see extensions getting done now because teams are back in the building. Front office members are back in the building, stuff like that. Cam ain't showing up until veterans show up, and there's no reason for him to do so. And that's likely when a contract would get signed is sometime over the course of this point where he's literally physically available to sign the contract because he's at the facility. Like, I really think that that's really how simple this is. I think at this point, like Cam and the New Orleans Saints have gone down the road of negotiating contracts, signing contracts, agreeing to terms, restructuring deals, reworking deals, all this other stuff, that there's probably a shorthand to this all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if these negotiations are done via text message these days between Cam's team and the New Orleans Saints. Like, it might be the easiest thing that we've ever seen. It's just, when is Cam in the building to put pen to paper, to put an ink signature on the paper? Like that is the thing. And that's the same thing with like Isaiah Foskey's contract. Isaiah Foskey reports today, well, Tuesday, right? Depending upon when you're watching this, because I'm probably going to release this Monday night. But, he reports Tuesday the 18th to the New Orleans Saints training facility, probably in a couple of days before training camp actually gets underway on the 26th. His rookie deal will be signed. And it's like that, right? Like he just needs to be at the facility at the same time that the contract is at the facility, and then you sign the contract and then you're good. That's probably what's going to happen with Cam Jordan. Though, if there is still some negotiation that needs to happen with all of it, then I could see it potentially coming down to after the season begins, week 1, week 2, like early on in the year, get it done, get it out of the way so you don't have to worry about it anymore. And then I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-year extension that effectively is a 3-year deal from this point moving forward that keeps Cam in New Orleans over the course of the next 3 years. And Cam and his wife make sure that the house in Arizona is done being built in 36 months. Then they move into the house in Arizona that's done being built in 36 months. Like that's what Cam deserves. That's exactly what Cam deserves. He deserves to have it the way that he wants it, if it were to play out the way that he wants it to play out. And then he'll have a long, successful career in media right after that. Like Mark Ingram going from the New Orleans Saints to Fox doing college football coverage. I won't be surprised at all when Cam Jordan makes a similar leap. Maybe not to Fox for college. He'll probably be in the NFL spectrum. Maybe, like, we'll see where he actually ends up, but he'll have a long career after that. So here's my outside of the box idea when it comes to players who are up for extension or whose contract is eligible for extension. Like, I would love to say, well, the New Orleans Saints should just extend Chris Olave right now, but they literally can't. Like, you literally are not allowed to. So they can't do that until he gets done with his 3rd year of his contract and all the other stuff. But so I could be out of the box that way and say that, but let me go with something that's actually realistic, which is take advantage of the youth that you have in your running back room right now and maintain it for a couple of years, and taking advantage of a very, very downturned running back league or running back situation across the league, and maybe consider extending Benjamin. And I know this is such like a low level thing that most people wouldn't even think about and everything, and I get that, but there's not really any other extensions out there that are probably going to get done. You could try to get a Carl Granderson extension done, but Carl Granderson should wisely, and Carl Granderson's team should wisely say, no. Let's see how he performs in 2023 to see what kind of contract they can get for him after 2023, just in case he has a Trey Hendrickson-like explosion his next year here. So I don't think a Carl Granderson extension is going to get done, because I think Carl Granderson's team is probably too smart, too good to do an extension this early. But in a situation to where you've got a 29-year-old running back in Alvin Kamara that's going to miss some games due to suspension, very likely this season. You've got a 29-year-old running back in Jamal Williams, who's fantastic, who's a bell cow back, and you're going to want to have guys that are going to be able to mix and match with him. You've got a 21-year-old running back in Kendre Miller by the time the season begins, one of the youngest players in this year's draft. He's potentially your future at the position, but do you want another guy out there that's going to be able to catch passes and run between the tackles and be kind of slithery and do all the things that a guy like Benjamin does? Yeah, you probably do as a part of your core. And so he's 24 years old right now. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Give him a 2-year extension and see if he takes it. Like, just grab yourself a talented running back that's going to be 26 years old by the time the term of that contract's done. And then if nothing else, you have another very good versatile weapon, so that when he's 26 years old in 2 years and Alvin Kamara is 31, 32 years old in 2 years, you can make an educated decision on which one of these guys is going to be able to do what you need him to do out on the field. Does it mean that Benjamin's going to be better than Alvin Kamara at 26 when Alvin Kamara was 26? No, probably not. But could a 26-year-old Benjamin be better for your system than a 32-year-old Alvin Kamara? Maybe. Who knows? So why not give yourself an opportunity there on a contract that's probably not going to cost you much money? Now, again, that's probably such like low-level stuff that the Saints aren't even considering right now. They're not worried about that. And especially with how easy it is to find running backs nowadays, you don't really need to do that, but it wouldn't hurt you if you did. And with the way that running back contracts are right now, if I'm Benjamin and somebody says, hey, here's a 2-year quasi commitment, light commitment with some guaranteed money, I'm probably like, yeah, let me sign that. Just hand that to me. Don't worry about them. Hand that to me. And then get that done. And so I'm just watching like Josh Jacobs not getting a new deal on a franchise tag, Tony Pollard not getting a new deal on a franchise tag, Kareem Hunt still a free agent, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, all of them got cut. Saquon Barkley didn't get a new contract on his franchise tag by the franchise tag deadline. Like, just take advantage of how just awful this running back market is right now, and get yourself a young running back for the next couple of years to go along with your young running back that you got for the next couple of years. Why not? So that's my outside the box idea. But the most important thing is like, just everybody and their mama want Cam to finish as a Saint. Just make it happen. All right, coming up next, are there any free agent additions that could be on the way for the New Orleans Saints? We'll go through some of the lower level things that you would expect the Saints to do over the course of training camp, but is there a chance that one or two big names shows up? I'm going to tell you why I'm not so sold on that idea anymore. We got that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. It is now time for you to take your first swing in the MLB when it comes, in MLB odds, props, all that good stuff. When it comes to FanDuel, because right now you're going to be able to get 10 times your first bet in bonus bets back to you up to $200. That's right. That means that if you put down, let's say $20 on the Astros or the Braves to win a game, you're going to land $200 back in bonus bets, whether you win or you lose that original $20 bet. Won't matter. So that's $200 more in bonus bets that you can spend on everything from another money line. Maybe you want to hit an over-under somewhere. Maybe you want to do first home run props, those kinds of things. You can do all of that today on a safe, secure, super easy to use app over at FanDuel. Plus, when you win, you're going to get paid out instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB action than America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today by visiting FanDuel.com/locked-on, and you're going to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, family, continuing on with today's episode of Locked On Saints. Big thank you, as always, making Locked On Saints, if all you everydayers out there, your first listen of the day every day. Make sure you come back for tomorrow's episode. It's midweek fundamentals, midweek fundies, as we continue to go through our final week of midweek fundies. So we're going to take a look at roster cuts, the way that that's changing going into this year, which is also going to give us an idea of preseason salary cap, how it changes once the 53-man roster is established, practice squad rules, all of that. So we're just going to get you all caught up so you know everything that you need to know ahead of all those roster cuts and everything that will happen after training camp and after preseason. So we're going to break all that down, as well as, of course, the biggest stories from around the New Orleans Saints in tomorrow's episode. Today, though, I want to continue on with our Transaction Tuesday. Are there any free agency additions that we could see leading into training camp? At this point, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that we're probably not going to see any big additions to this New Orleans Saints roster before training camp. Now, that doesn't mean that during training camp, they might not continue to work on all of these things. Like, this is a team that consistently brings in the veteran running backs, the veteran linebackers, the veteran offensive linemen, defensive linemen, all that. I could absolutely see the Saints doing those things. And we've said a bunch of names here on the show before, just to recap some. I'm a big fan of guys like Yannick Ngakoue and Justin Houston that can come in and play maybe a specialist pass rushing role, especially Justin Houston. Give him 100 to 200 snaps in a Caden Ellis pass rusher type role, right? From what the New Orleans Saints figured out last season with Caden Ellis. Let him do that 5-6 times a game. That's not 100 to 200, but 10 to 20 times a game. And then he's good. Like, come in, bust some stuff up, mess some stuff up for our opposing offense, and then just go and chill. We'll see you next third down. Like, I love that role for a guy like that. My colleague over at Saints News Network, John Hendricks, does point out a good point that he's usually a stand-up rusher, 3-4 guy, but we've seen the Saints deploy stand-up rushers in their scheme before. Marshawn Lattimore. Who am I? Hello? Anybody there? Anybody here? Marcus Davenport, Peyton Turner, Cam Jordan, these guys have rushed from 2-point stances before. I also like the idea of having him come from sort of that Caden Ellis, role as well. But John makes a really good point. Might not be the greatest scheme fit for him and stuff. So maybe that doesn't work, but I do think it's good. And then Yannick Ngakoue is another one, but the guy's had 7.5 sacks every single season of his career. What is his contract going to look like? All that. I think the ceiling's already set. I think the 1 year, $7.5 million deal, basically, that Frank Clark got hopping across the division from the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that is a spot where maybe you could see Yannick Ngakoue potentially fitting in, or it's like a 2-year, $14 million deal. And it's the same principle, or 2-year, $15 million deal, same principle, but spread out so that it's an extra year. I don't think it's a bad way for the Saints to be at all, just to add some more veteran presence at defensive end. And I think, I value the veteran presence when it comes to free agency additions, not for the same reason, though. I value the veteran, not for the same reason as a lot of folks. I value the veteran presence because the veteran presence is somebody that has played at an NFL level before and produced at an NFL level before, period. There's a lot of folks that talk about we're bringing the veteran presence because then they can mentor this, that, and the other. Cam's got that. That's why Cam needs to finish his career as a Saint, because Cam's got that situation to where he's playing and he's serving as a mentor He loves working with Isaiah Foskey, all that stuff. There's a ton like that makes a whole bunch of sense. And you've got coaches to do the coaching. You don't need to go out and grab a veteran that's ever played in your system to coach up somebody that's playing in your system. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But production at an NFL level, experience, those things to me are a part of being able to produce on a football field. So I like that. At linebacker, there's still some good names out there. The Deion Joneses, the Corey Littletons of the world, all that. I don't know. I don't know what the Saints are going to do here. I think that they are very, very comfortable with Zach Bond as being that strong side linebacker. I think that's good for him too. It allows him to be a little bit more on ball, stop the run, rush the passer. The thing that made him draftable when he was at Wisconsin, that makes sense to me. DeMarco Jackson is the guy that we've highlighted time and time again as the guy that the Saints are at least teaching right now throughout minicamps, OTAs, all that, to be that next coverage guy, the signal caller, the green dot, the communications guy that sets up the defense, kind of playing the middle linebacker, or what you'll hear referred to as the Mike linebacker role a lot. Mike just middle, that's all. And so M for middle, M for Mike, you get it. And so I think that that's probably the two positions where I could see them adding the most when it comes to free agency. But these additions might not be big additions. Yeah, do the Saints have $14 million to spend going into the year? Yeah, sure they do. But can they carry some of that going into the season? Of course they can. And some of that's going to get eaten up anyway, because it's going to go from the top 51 players on the 90-man roster counting against the salary cap to all 53 players counting against the salary cap. So, you're going to have a little bit of money that's going to add into that anyway. You got a practice squad that you're going to have to add into your salary cap. Like, there's a lot of that money that's going to get reallocated elsewhere and everything. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the Saints carrying some of that into the season. We're going to discuss a little bit as to why here in just a moment. But if for nothing else, you have an injury, you need to sign a guy. Like, just to have that sort of stockpile of money is huge. The other place that I don't think that I would be surprised to see the New Orleans Saints continue to maybe cycle in some faces and get more looks at players is going to be on the offensive line. They need to do everything that they can, get a look at as many people, as many players as they can to make sure that they have the depth that they want going into the year. You've got your starting five, but who's 6, 7, 8, 9, and however many offensive linemen you're going to keep, right? Who are those other guys? I think you know who 6 is. 6 is probably James Hurst. So then who's, Nick Saldiveri stay on your roster? So who's after that, right? Who are the other guys between Calvin Throckmorton and Landon Young and Lewis Kidd and all these others that have been added over the course of the offseason, and then you can add in more over the course of the offseason as well. I expect it's mostly going to be familiar faces. It could be exactly the names that I just named, but we'll see, right? We have to see how that all works out. So I won't be surprised to see the Saints go into training camp with their roster as it is, the 90-man roster currently as it is, unless there's some failed physicals and not physicals, but like conditioning checks and stuff like that force them to move on from somebody and bring somebody in. That does happen sometimes. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them go into training camp with this 90-man roster as it's mostly established, the majority of it, maybe with a couple of moves here and there, and then drop a couple of players and then sign a couple of different players going into week 2, get a look at them, drop a couple of players, maybe bring back some of the original players, stuff like that. Like they'll get a look at a bunch of guys and keep records and files on everybody so that if somebody does get hurt at some point, they could say, okay, we know we like this, and this about this person at this position that we saw during training camp. Like that will be what the free agency moves are mostly about over the course of the offseason. But will there be another big name added? I'm starting to think maybe not. Maybe not. Coming up next, though, let's take a look at how the New Orleans Saints could get involved in the trade market before the season begins. So this isn't necessarily before training camp, but when does it make the most sense for the Saints to be active in the trade market? We're going to answer that question as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's get it. Who Dat Nation, wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Saints with our final segment here on Transaction Tuesday. Appreciate all the everydayers out there making it your first listen of the day. We're taking a look now at trades. Could the New Orleans Saints potentially pull off a trade before training camp? Yeah, it's possible. However, it feels very unlikely. Just feel like at this point, you're probably ready to just get into training camp and see the guys that are on your roster. You've made the moves that you want to make. You've not made some of the moves that you weren't able to make. I don't know if that changes over the course of this week. But I'll tell you where I think that the New Orleans Saints get active in the trade market. And that's going to be at roster cuts. Remember, roster cuts are a little bit different this year. We're going to break it down a little bit more in tomorrow's episode as we get into midweek fundamentals. But the bottom line is that every team now cuts directly from 90 to 53 after the third preseason game. That's kind of the bare bones of what you need to know. We'll get more in depth about that tomorrow. Part of the way that you could do that is that you could trade a player away. You don't have to cut them. And the Saints have done this before. Davro Lawrence, they traded him for a 6th, 7th round pick, whatever it was, to the Cleveland Browns years ago. Malcolm Brown, they traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th, 7th, 5th round pick, whatever it was, a few years ago. The Saints could do that again. Instead of cutting a player that they feel has trade value or has value that enough value that another team would leap at giving up a late day 3 selection in order to ensure that they get him rather than hope that that player passes through to them through waivers or doesn't get claimed, doesn't get picked up, and therefore can be signed and added to their practice squad or to their regular roster, whatever it might be. I could see the Saints getting involved in that way again. So it's not actually them trading for a player to add a player to their roster. It's instead actually, they don't feel like they have a space for, forgive me, I'm just going to pick a name and say Lonnie Johnson Jr. It's fine. We're just picking a name. But they feel that Lonnie Johnson Jr. has got really good trade value. And so what they do is that they make him available. They let some teams know that he's available. Hey, I know you need some help in your secondary. We're looking at moving on from Lonnie Johnson Jr. He would go to waivers. You'd have to hope that they get to, you're all the way down at like 23rd priority. Is this a player you'd be interested in adding to your secondary for a 6th, 7th round pick? That's not the way that trade negotiations work. I know it's not the way that those conversations happen. I made it too casual. I get it. Okay. But you get the idea. Is that you don't have to cut a player. You could trade a player and get a pick back or something like that. Trade 2 players, get 1 player. There's some things, there's ways that you could do that before that actual cut down happens. So that's really where I see the Saints really potentially get involved in the trade market this offseason. And then acquiring a cornerstone player if that player is likely to be moved on from before, the regular season begins. And so that's where Hunter Renfrow comes back into the conversation. Hunter Renfrow has entered the chat and he's back. And it's like one of those deals where the Raiders really got to look at, their new wide receiver core and the young receiver that they drafted, feel like he can really step in and challenge because he had a fantastic preseason, fantastic training camp, and he's going to be the guy in the slot for them. And so they're going to trade Hunter Renfrow because they don't want to just cut him. Then all of a sudden, the New Orleans Saints should be on the phone. I almost picked up my French truck coffee to hold up to my ear. But, to get on the phone and they say, hey, we heard that you might be moving on from Hunter Renfrow. Well, what you got? What do you need? What do you want? What do we got? Well, let's talk. And so there's kind of those ways the Saints can go with it too. So that's where I see the Saints getting involved in the trade market. The other place that I see them getting involved in the trade market, and this is why I think they should carry some of their salary cap into the 2023 season. And so let's say they have about $14 million, call it $13.5 million. Let's say they use $5. Let's say they use $5 million. So they got about $9.5 million left. Save that junk. Roll right into the season with it. Be ready to roll right out of the season with it if you need to. But what this does is that it allows the team to be active during the trade deadline. This is where the Davante Adams conversation comes back in. Let's say Michael Thomas gets hurt 5 games into the season. The trade deadline's right around the corner, just a couple weeks away. Let's say it's 5 weeks in, you're 4-1, the Raiders are 1-4. Call them up. Hey, buddy, got a 1st round pick with your name on it for Davante Adams. We really need him. 4-1, hoping to keep this thing going. 1-4. It's clear that y'all are going to bed. So can we have him? You know what I mean? And you could kind of make those types of pitches and stuff like that too. If you're a competing team and you have an injury, or if you're a competing team and you don't have an injury, you're a competing team and you feel like you're one piece away. Maybe you're an edge rusher away. Maybe you're a defensive tackle away. Maybe you're a coverage linebacker away. Maybe you're, an additional wide receiver away or whatever, an offensive lineman away. It doesn't matter. Whatever that piece is that you feel that you're away and you're into week 7 at 6-1 or 5-2 or whatever. Or let's say you're 4-3 and the rest of your division's not. And so you've got a 2-game lead there. So that would make them 2-5, let's say, the rest of the division. Okay. Make a call and add an offensive lineman, make a call and add whatever piece you feel like you're missing. That is the difference in one of those 3 games that you lost. Like, it's that simple. Like that's where I think the Saints really get involved in the trade market, is actually after the season begins. So just to kind of recap, there's at least one extension that feels like should be a sure thing that the New Orleans Saints could get done before training camp begins. That's Cam Jordan. Although that might actually roll into the regular season game 1, game 2. My out of the box suggestion would be Benjamin. In terms of acquiring players via free agency, it's probably going to be a lot of smaller, let's get a look at these 3 guys this week. Let's get a look at these 3 guys this week, so on and so forth. Like, I think that's really what it is. And then maybe if the right situation lands, like, the Saints aren't going to shut off their phone lines and say, no, we're not talking to any more free agents. They're going to keep those conversations going. There's no doubt about that. So if the right situation lands, then sure. But other than that, I don't see anything happening right now. I kind of hope I'm saying that just so that they sign somebody tomorrow and then I get to do a show about it. Like, I'm not upset with that at all. I'll technically be on vacation, quote unquote, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but I'm still doing the show at least. So go ahead. Sign someone. I dare you. And then in terms of trading, I think at roster cuts to get a pick and to actually offload a player makes the most sense. And then outside of that, it's like, if the right player is being offloaded at roster cuts and you want that player, go get him, or hold on to some stuff during or for the trade deadline. Those are things that make the most sense. All right, y'all. Coming up in tomorrow's episode, midweek fundamentals. What happens with the salary cap when the season begins? Top 51 cutoff goes away. What does that mean? Roster cuts, practice squad. We're going to dig into all that in terms of your roster construction and how you get ready for the season. So that's up on tomorrow's episode. And we're also going to dive through a little bit more like what happens in training camp. And we're going to go through all of that as well. Remember, tickets become available general public on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time at NewOrleansSaints.com. If you want to grab those, if you're a season ticket member, they're already open for you. If you are a waitlist season ticket person, then that will open up Tuesday at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you're keeping up with all that. And of course, if you would like to, training camp's on the way. So there's going to be a lot of inside information that I'm going to have, stuff like that, stuff that I won't necessarily be able to share on the show. You want to get in on that, film study, some extra stuff. You can head over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSaints. Free for 2 weeks, $4.99 a month. If you want to stick around and buy me a cup of coffee each month after that, helps contribute to the show. But I promise you're going to get a lot back for that $5 a month. So I appreciate you as always, y'all, for making Locked On Saints a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. As always, if you see me, say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.